4 categories, and I think you made the important point that I thought, because it's functional, maybe it's not about changing the categories, but re-examining as to whether or not using the categorization for specific policy is indeed the best way. And the answer can well be different depending on the policy. Maybe, for certain policies, it needs a more fine grain. So it's about then not so much examining the categories, but examining the specific policy and whether we have better measures. So I think that's a point that I like. With regards to living together and mixing, I suppose my own experience growing up and also living in places where indeed there's no markers, I wouldn't want to live there, where the whole community, the whole town is just one race. And in some places, it doesn't just become the whole town, schools, colleges are about one race. So, and that to me takes away a large opportunity, not just to build relationships, but also empathy. Because,
Should we then ask the Chinese people how they feel about that? Living in schools, going to schools where it is predominantly one race, or living in a block where the majority is Chinese, because that is the experience of many Chinese people in Singapore, by saying you have to be at least 70 or 80% in this area or whatever. That's what's happening. We have Chinese people who've never met an Indian person, never been to school.
But wouldn't it be worse if we didn't mix them up?
I don't know if it would. I'm not sure that it would, because I think what we tend to forget is that by having these sort of forced congregations or forced numbers, then you always have an overwhelming Chinese majority. And so that becomes the dominant culture.
No, but if you didn't have if you didn't have that, and you let people segregate out, then wouldn't you worsen the areas where there's a dominant Chinese majority, because they are the majority in Singapore?
I don't think so. I think it allows us to think beyond such very simplistic way of thinking. If you group people together, they will to talk to. No, that's not the point.
No, it's not.
The point is we have to. I think it's an education saying, well, actually, we need to explore these differences and explore how we're different, explore the diversity.
No, I fully agree. I fully agree with the need for exploration. But no, my point was that if you allowed, let's say, more Malays to all live together, or more Indians to live together, then by definition you're allowing more Chinese to live together. Which means the number of places where Chinese are not just the majority, but the only people around, actually goes up. It doesn't reduce, right? Because you then be...
I don't see that as being worse than where we are now, because what we have now is a forced Chinese majority in all these areas. So if we believe that by putting people into groups where they are diverse is a good thing, then let people live where they want to, let people group the way they want to, and encourage the conversation between areas of stronger culture.
So there are parts of Singapore where that does happen, right? Because in private housing, for example, we don't have this. And you would see, for example, I mean, you Google online and you know that some condos are overwhelmingly one race, overwhelmingly, right? And I'm not convinced that those people have a very well integrated outlook on life, or
no, I don't think we can say. So this is what I'm saying. I don't think it's working. I don't think if the goal of grouping people together and so helping people integrate, I don't think that's a useful employment of CMIO if we're going to keep it. I think we need to do more. I don't think that the policies we have in place right now, putting people in places by CMIO is working.
No, I fully agree that that's not enough. I would argue that it's a starting point. But if you wanted to do more, what would that more be?
I think we're still on the. Are we keeping CMIO? If we're keeping CMIO, we have to just say, well, it doesn't matter. We have to just say it really doesn't matter what race you are. I mean, we have to start with that as an opening statement.
Okay.
So you are a C or an I or whatever, but really you're Singaporean.
But what do we do with that? Because we say that in the pledge, right? We say that we say that regardless of race, language, or religion.
Yeah, we do say in the pledge, but I don't think we understand it.
So how do we make people understand it?
We need to actually say, well, what this means is.
Can I?
Yes, please go ahead.
Maybe just jump in and say that I think then, speaking as a minority or classified as such, that it will affect the minority. For example, if I can relate, say, my experience going through my career, where because of my ethnicity and being in the front line of media, I was deemed as being not as marketable as a majority race because the audience was primarily of the majority. And so if the rationale that they employed to me was that it doesn't matter, what race you are, we just would rather choose somebody else. They can use that as an excuse, I feel.
So that would be a negative for you?
That isn't a negative? Yeah.
So you worry that the market forces would work against you?
I would. I feel like without an intervention to maintain some form of a balance, over time, as an ethnicity in this day and age, I would lose opportunity overall.
So you're saying that because of CMIO, because of Canada, you've been able to push back and say, no, you have to give me the airspace because I think
there's been more opportunity afforded to minorities because CMIO exists, because there are conditions and quotas in television or specific industries that require this representation to be there. Because I feel personally, otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, so you're suggesting that is the categorization a way to measure the problem, or is it a way to fix the problem, or is it just mitigating the problem?
Yeah, it's mitigating the problem at the moment. It's mitigating the problem at the moment. I don't think it's the best way to mitigate the problem.
But would the problem get worse or better if we removed the categorization?
I think it worse at this point in time.
Why?
Again, this comes and stems from personal experience, and it stems from the multitude of instances where I've been deprived of an opportunity because I was not of a majority race. And so that's purely where it's stemming from.